How can you bulk up whilst traveling? With summer around the corner, there's always social events, holidays and work, and after spending years gaining 35 kilos, I would always end up losing weight from just a week or two abroad. Whereas now, I'm traveling more than ever before, with 12-hour flights to Bali, America, Brazil, and my schedule's been busier than ever, with running a business, going to events, and working long hours. Yet, I've become the most consistent with bulking so far, from hitting 4,500 calories every single day, even whilst traveling. So, in this video, I'm going to show you how exactly to structure your bulk, even if you're traveling or working long hours. Let's start by categorizing it in travel order. So, pre-holiday, flight day, and the holiday. In terms of the pre-holiday and before you're on your flight, one thing which is really important to do is learning how to track your calories. Now, you don't need to do this for the rest of your life. However, learning how to track initially is going to be super important, because when you're abroad and you're going to restaurants or eating out, if you've never tracked calories at all, you won't have a clue about how much you're actually eating. So before the trip, spend a couple of weeks learning how to track things, because then when you get to a restaurant, you'll have a good estimation. So you'll know that one chicken breast is roughly 120 calories and 30 grams of protein. Otherwise, it's so easy to overestimate the amount of calories that you're eating, because you could eat a huge big plate. However, it's got low volume food on it and it's not very calorie dense. So you feel full and it's a massive plate that only has 400, 500 calories. Whereas if you thought that was 1,000 calories, and that simple overestimation could mean by the end of the day, you're not even eating in a surplus and you could even lose weight. And everyone thinks tracking is so overcomplicated and so complex. However, it's actually pretty simple. With my one-to-one coaching app, it's got its own tracker within it. So I literally take about 5 seconds just scanning a barcode with my phone, and that'll track the calories. I can also log foods and create meals. So if I'm having similar meals each day, then I don't have to manually scan every single time. There's other trackers out there, but just make sure that you at least spend a couple of weeks learning how to do it. Cool. So now, after doing the preparation, we can move on to the flight day. Let's build out the perfect backpack for your flight. If you watched the channel before, you would know I always go on about thermal bottles, and there's a good reason for that. With thermal bottles, it can keep your protein shake and bulking shakes at a cool temperature. So this is amazing and ideal when you're going to hot countries, because the worst thing is always hot, warm protein shakes in the summer. With the thermal bottle, it also means that you can take calories along with you. So if you're going for a walk, you can just sip on it throughout the day. And with the flight day, there's always delays or you're always waiting around. So you could bring a 1,000 calorie shake with things like peanut butter, milk, protein powder, and more to the airport, and then just sip on it whilst you're waiting. The next items in your backpack is going to be protein powder and creatine. With the MyProtein Origin powder, it actually combines creatine and protein powder in the same scoop, so this can be an amazing 2-for-1. The reason why protein is good to take with you is because it's a macronutrient which is the hardest to hit essentially, and it's also fairly expensive, especially if you're getting protein shakes bought from the store. It can really help to save a lot of costs. In terms of creatine, this helps with your strength and performance when you're at the gym. And the last item in the backpack is going to be resistance bands. Now this mainly applies if you don't have a gym or access to a gym, and with resistance bands, it's actually pretty hard. I always used to think it was just for girls, but trust me, resistance band exercises, when you have a good level of resistance, is actually very tricky. And with resistance bands, you can do things like bicep curls, lateral raises, tricep extensions, and so much more. The beauty of it is that you can do all of these exercises from home, from the hotel, from the park, or wherever you're at. Cool. So this is your bulk and backpack for flight day all sorted. And if you're wondering where to get the thermal bottle, the supplements, or the resistance bands from, you can get them from MyProtein and use code Beckles for a discount. On flight day, another thing that could be worth considering is taking your own food. Something like chicken and cheese baguette, for example, or sandwiches, because with the food they provide on the actual flights. It's typically quite low in protein and it's mass produced, so it's processed and not the healthiest at all. Now, let's get on to the main thing, the holiday. In terms of training, when you're abroad, you want to do this first thing in the morning so it's out the way. Because when you're on holiday, there's always things that come up, there's always activities or just random events. So you want to get it out the way in the morning, then you don't have to stress out and think about it later on. In terms of where to train, ideally if you can, going to a gym is going to be amazing. So you can get day passes or week passes, but if you're not close to the gyms, you can do a bodyweight routine or a resistance band routine. Now, I help my clients all the time with balancing fitness and travel, as a lot of the people I work with are CEOs, busy professionals, or office workers, so are constantly on the go or commuting. And the best plan is always the one that you can stay the most consistent with. So here's how I programmed a training split for my clients Nathan and Alex, who are both working over 10 hours and were traveling. So I actually took off a set for every exercise and instead ensured that they would go into failure on those sets. This meant they were still doing the exact same exercises, but with slightly less volume, but more intensity. This made the sessions a lot quicker without compromising the actual progress. I added supersets too, like bicep curls and tricep extensions. This made the workout 45 minutes to an hour at max. And they both saw huge progress even with such busy schedules. Nathan managed to gain 10 kilos while staying lean and muscular, and Alex lost 13 kilos whilst gaining muscle. So when you're abroad, slightly adjusting your training can help massively, because when you're on holiday, no one wants to spend 2-3 hours every single day in the gym. There's much quicker and effective ways to still get the same progress. And if you're in that yo-yo state where you're making progress, stalling, losing progress, and then making progress again, and constantly bouncing between the two, I'll be happy to see if I can help you. Whether it's from the extra accountability and better structure with the training or nutrition, just feel free to click the first link in the description, fill out the form, and then I'll get in touch. Cool, so that's the training side of things done when you're on holiday. Now, let's dive into the nutrition. So, provided you're not eating out at every single meal or you don't have loads of cooking equipment, here's a simple structure that you can follow. In the mornings, you can go for instant oats. All you need to do is add the oats to the boiling hot water from the kettle. To make it more calorie dense, you can add things like peanut butter, honey, milk, and dates. That's already 800 to 900 calories without any cooking. For lunch, if you're not eating out, you could have things like baguettes. So with a baguette, you can add things like tuna, cheese, sweet corn, and mayo. That's an easy 1000 calories you can even take with you. And then for the dinner, you'll probably be eating out. So you can go for high calorie, calorie dense meals. Here's how I would pick the meal when I'm at a restaurant. For my carbs, I'd go for things like pasta or rice as the base, because with potatoes, they're gonna fill you up. However, they don't really have much calories in them. For the protein side of it, red meat is always a good option. However, things like chicken thighs too are great because they've got a lot more calories than chicken breast. And of course, the meals are going to vary depending on where you're actually based on your holiday, but going for slightly creamier options like creamy chicken pasta is going to be a great option because these type of options have a lot of healthy fats in them, and fats are the most calorie dense macronutrient. So that comes to the end of the video. Hopefully by now you'll know how to bulk up whilst you're away and whilst you're traveling. And if you did find the video helpful, drop a like, drop a subscription, and I'll catch you next time.